Hey, what up? It's Brad with Home Love Construction, and welcome back to another episode of the Critical Path Podcast. We had a gap here because I'm going to blame it on the hurricane. The Y actually was God for that instance. But we're back, and we're back here with a friend of mine, Aaron. How the hell do I say your last name? Is it Siepierski? Siepierski. I know I was going to say it wrong.
It's all good.
So Aaron is Aaron's got multiple businesses, and I'm going to let you talk about them. But he is a very business-minded guy. And I think for somebody watching this, the biggest thing you're going to get out of this is, even as we were talking here before, we immediately got into like the nitty-gritty of business, like almost immediately. Yeah. So I think you're going to get a lot of kind of tactical things. So just because he may have a business that's different from yours, listen to what he says because he's proven that he can grow a business consistently. And anyways, introduce yourself and tell us who you are.
I appreciate it. My name is Aaron Siepierski. I have 4 businesses. All of my businesses are out of Metro Detroit, Michigan. My main business is an estate sale company. So that's where we go into a home and we sell everything that someone owns when they pass away. And I did not put this on silent. I apologize.
Oh, no worries.
So we go in and we sell all of their things when somebody passes away. We'll go in and we'll sell their art, antiques, collectibles, furniture, down to their jewelry, cleaning supplies, everything that someone owns.
Yeah.
We have an auction house, a worldwide auction house. That's kind of a stem off of that, where we do really high-end items. We do high-end art, antiques, a lot of jewelry. We have a comic book auction coming up. Collectibles, things like that. So we do that on a worldwide marketplace. So we sell to over 150 countries on that in the auction house. And we also have a real estate staging company, which is a company I purchased last year from somebody who was moving, which was fun.
Wow. Okay, good.
So that was a whole thing.
I didn't know you bought that company. I thought you started it.
No, yeah.
Actually, I assumed there was so much like cheap furniture from the estate sale business. And you're like, I should just use this. But great.
Yeah, and what's funny is I've actually never bought, or actually I'll take that back. I've bought a few things, but most of our inventory we've already had or we bought new for the staging company.
Yeah.
None of it comes from estate sales, which is interesting. But and then we have a real estate company called Vi Real Estate in Michigan. So what
is it?
It's called Vi Real Estate. Yeah, like we vie for your business. We want to, we're competitors, So
is it just VY?
It's VIE.
VIE.
Yeah.
Got it.
And I have some great partners in that business and great partners in the staging company. And then I solely own the auction house and the estate sale company.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. VIE is also how you say life in French.
That's right. Yeah. I did know that.
There we go.
Why. That's another reason.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, man, I already have so many questions just based on what you said on buying that company. But first, so let's talk about the estate sale company, because that's the main that's the main income driver for you,
right?
Is what you're talking about. So, how long have you been running that business? When did you start it, and what has the growth process been like for that?
Absolutely. So I started it in 2011. So I was probably 22 or 23 years old at that point. And
really, in 2011?
Yeah.
You started this business in 2011.
Really?
Yeah.
That's go.
13 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
We just, November 14th is Home Love Day. We just hit 13 years.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Mine was like October or November as well. I think October 11th.
Wow.
So that's crazy. But really that started because I was a kid and I worked for an estate sale company. Like my next door neighbor, he needed somebody to help him clean out a house. And so I basically was shoveling stuff in a dumpster as like an 18-year-old kid. And he paid me $100 that day. And I was
throwing it away.
Just throwing it away. It was after the estate sale that they did. And he was cleaning out the house. And so that day, like I got paid $100. And at the end of the day, like I heard some commotion coming from inside the house. And they were talking about this jacket. And this jacket was disgusting. You wouldn't have touched it. Your wife would have definitely been like, don't touch that. Because it was that gross. And they sold that jacket. They put it on eBay that night for $8,000. And it just blew my mind when I saw them get that much money for something that was like had so little value in my mind.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I worked my ass off for an entire day and I made $100, which I was stoked about. Don't get me wrong. Like I was super happy with that. But at that moment, my whole life changed because I was like, I need to know what this is. I need to know what these guys know, because this is huge. And so I worked for them for a few years. And then when I quit, basically the next day I needed to figure out what I was going to do for money. So, and I had all this information, this knowledge now. So I went to Kinko's and I printed up little flyers that said like, we buy antiques with my phone number and a list of things that I knew something about. And I printed up thousands of them, and I just put them in gas stations and liquor stores and street posts and spray glued them onto gas station pumps. And
so no name, no company, no brand. You just said, we buy antiques. It listed the antiques you buy and a phone number.
Exactly. All of a sudden I started getting calls all over Detroit. And I was going in attics and basements and buying stuff from people, and they were selling it to me. And it was making a lot of money on eBay at that time. And I would also spend the weekends going to estate sales because I knew what to buy. And I would start at like midnight. I would be number one at an estate sale because I could go in, walk in, buy one thing and make $1,000 on it. So by 11 o'clock in the morning on a Friday, I was done for the day. Like I already had made my money and I was going home to sell it or list it online. What I realized in that process was I didn't like the idea of offering you $100 for something I knew I could sell for $1,000. So that was sitting back here in my head as a moral dilemma, because it's like, what is the right amount that someone should be able to make? And who the hell determines that? Like, can I buy something for you for 100 and sell it for 100,000? Or would you feel kind of upset? You know? So I was sitting with this like, you know, should I have given you 50,000? Should I have given you 90,000? Like, what is the proper amount? And it was something that I couldn't figure out. So what I did instead was I realized that if I started the estate sale company, then I'm helping people liquidate their items and make them as much money as possible. And it took away the whole thing for me, because now I can be helping people maximize their value instead of going and buying and flipping. I know you've probably seen Gary Vee and all that. Like
of course.
Going to garage sales and flipping. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, I've done it.
Yeah. So like where like that just like, it's fine when you buy a super soaker for $5 and you sell it for 50 or whatever, or, you know, but when you find a Pokemon card that's worth 10,000 or something,
you buy it for $1.
You buy it for $1.
Yeah.
Like it eats away at you, you know, it's not a great feeling after a while. And you can see it. Like I personally, this is my personal viewpoint, but we have a lot of dealers that come to our estate sales and you can see them in their older age, how rough they are, how like how they have to, they're always looking for ways to make $1, which is fine. Like I want to like sell things to them for sure and have them make money. But I don't want to give everything away to them so that they can make a killing.
Well, what I would attribute that to is when you're doing business that way, and when I say that, I mean like, you know, you buy something, you look around for things that you can buy 350 Pokemon cards, like a pack for $50.
Right.
And then there's one card in there you're going to pick out and sell for 10K. And then maybe a couple more you'll sell for 50 or 200 or whatever. What you're relying on there is unknownness. That's actually the element that you're making money on unknown data.
100%.
Right. And so your entire life is based on withholding information from people.
You're exactly right.
Which people might think is fine. And honestly, I actually don't personally, I'll just give you my personal opinion, even though you didn't ask, is I don't actually think there's anything like morally wrong about buying something for $1 that you can sell for 10,000. If that person is happy to sell it to you for $1, whatever, fuck it.
Right.
But I found when I was doing it, it was impossible to do that without feeling that I had to withhold the data.
Exactly.
And like I had to like sneak in and get it before somebody else saw what it was and then go, and then I was like home free. So when you're saying they look rough, that's totally real to me. They're probably very like, they can't reach past the microphone.
Exactly.
Right? With their reach is so cut. They're probably like, oh, probably can't look you in the eye.
No. Yeah, exactly. And I didn't want to end up like that. So I shifted my whole viewpoint, and I did some ads. Like I decided I'm going to start an estate sale company. And I got, you know, at that point I got a Vistaprint website. You know, this is 2011. You guys are, you know how it went. And and with it came like a $300 Google AdWord credit.
Oh, wow.
And so I spent the Google AdWord credit. Within 24 hours, I had my first estate sale job.
Wow.
I made that client $10,000 that next week, and I made $3,000 off of that.
Wow.
So I was like, damn, like this worked. So I just put it all back in Google and just have been running it ever since, you know?
Wow.
And, you know, many millions later, you know, it all worked out. But now, like we were talking about earlier, I think the estate sale company has about 45 staff.
Wow.
And we do 5 to 10 estate sales a week. We've definitely, we've grown to probably the largest privately owned estate sale company in the nation.
Really?
Yeah, because there's definitely franchises that have a lot of locations.
Yeah.
There's one that I won't mention, but they're the largest franchise in the country. And our one little company does 80% of the revenue that all 90 locations of theirs do.
Wow.
So that's kind amazing. Of intense.
And that's just in you do Michigan and kind of outer areas. I've seen you post about it.
Yeah.
What's your range?
So we basically go I'm doing one in St. Pete tomorrow.
Oh, so great. There you go.
But yeah, we do Metro Detroit, Michigan. Yeah. We do some in Chicago. We'll probably open up a branch there soon. We're trying to open up our next location somewhere warm, probably Texas, where we're looking. So, but we'll go anywhere. I've done them in LA. I've done them in NorCal, but those are specific projects. Yeah. And, but mainly in Metro Detroit.
Wow. Dude, that's freaking amazing. What is your, like, what's the hardest part about opening a separate geographic location? Because like for us, dude, I want to like open another geographic location so bad right now, but I'm like, I literally can't wrap my head around the amount of, in construction, things require a lot of push. I don't know if it's the same way in estate sales, but there's a lot of literally just like push, and our cycles are so long. Like our average project takes, if I average everything out, the average is probably 5.5 months. That's our average project. Right. Because we do pretty major renovations and custom home builds. They take a while. So to keep like the hammering through a 5-month period takes a lot of it takes someone with a lot of intention. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. How do you manage that across a so you're probably not at any of your estate sales at this point, right?
No,
like you don't physically arrive to any of them.
No, the really big ones or the special projects for sure. Like I have an employee, my best employee. We probably have one on Black Friday that should do like 150,000. Wow. I'm going to go work that with him and on Black Friday. So I'm going home for that. And then there was another one that we did that made about the same a couple weeks ago.
It's on Black Friday.
On Black Friday. That's our best week. Yeah,
it is
for sure.
It is.
Yeah.
Do you discount things because it's Black Friday, or do you just rely on the flow of people already buy on Black Friday? Just the sheer force. Do you do it in the afternoon?
Purchasing. We do it the whole day.
You do it the whole day.
Whole day. We'll start at 9 or 10 a.m. Go to 4, and we'll run it that whole weekend. But we found every Black Friday that we've done is just like we always put our best sale, like really good sales there, and make it a big deal. And the thing about it is most other estate sale companies aren't doing anything. So there's no other estate sales except for ours. Wow. People that shop at, which in Michigan, there's usually 100 a week. So
100 a week?
Yeah. Like between all the different companies, it's a massive market in Michigan. Compared to Tampa, that's why I haven't done here.
There's a lot of dead people.
Yeah, dead, downsizing, all sorts of ways. But here there's about 10 a week, to put it in perspective.
Are you serious?
Yeah, which is why we haven't went into this market yet. So
you know about Newport Richey?
Oh,
it's probably a lot more Newport Richey than down here.
Probably. Yeah,
and I think a lot of dead people up there.
Fair. So, I mean,
I'm sorry that I reduced your entire business to selling dead people's shit.
No, it's all good. I mean, listen, I help families with downsizing, and when somebody passes away, that's what I do.
You know the concept of an irreducible minimum?
No.
Have you ever heard that?
I think I've heard it.
There's kind of like a principle that like someone's job will shrink down to the irreducible minimum of like what you can observe that they do. Nice. Right? It'll inevitably go down to just
you
that.
build stuff, you hammer stuff, right?
Yeah, we hammer nails. Yeah. It's like, what's the irreducible minimum of construction? Nail something together.
Nail something together. It's that easy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But to answer your question on like scaling, right?
Yeah.
And like how do you
but doing it from a distance too, because I know how to scale something.
Right.
The difference is it's really more managing from a distance is the actual question, and making it go right. Like things don't need to be perfect. I've overcome that mental hurdle years ago. Yeah. But how do you make it go good enough that it's not a liability?
Well, we'll see. I think that there's two things. I think first of all, most people try to do that before they should. Yeah. Try to expand into a new market before they should, when they could just take over 50% more of their own market.
Right.
So, and actually have the control on the base and things like that, which I know you guys do great with how much you guys advertise and everything. You're going after a bigger chunk than what you have now. Of course.
Yeah.
Definitely see your ads. And so I think that is first, because I have friends and they build their company to like $1 million and then they're like, let me go do this somewhere else. Let me go start a new location or something or go franchise. And it's not big enough. And so secondly, like we've spent the last year trying to dial in every single process and procedure. And our plan is for me to go into a new location, hire that operator that I'm going to run personally, and then put the team there, build and train, and then pop out and run it, have my management team in Detroit run them as well. But we'll see. I think that Starbucks has done it super successfully. I think that's a great model. And I think that obviously like every business has its intricacies. Like they're just making a cup of coffee, but it has to be perfect every time. And it has to have somebody that's making sure that they're doing it right. It has to have all these different things.
The weird, I agree with what you're saying, but the weird thing about Starbucks that I noticed recently is I was looking at Starbucks and I'm like, how often do they make a cappuccino correctly for me?
Fair.
I'm like, less than half of the time.
My wife would probably say the same. See, I just get an espresso, so I don't know.
You just get straight espresso?
I just get double shot espresso.
Oh, really?
Yeah, straight.
I've switched to, I usually get an Americano, which is impossible to screw up. It's literally just the espresso with the water done.
Right.
But like, I was looking at it, I'm like, man, Starbucks product actually is not that good.
Right.
Like
and a lot of people would agree with you on that, like especially coffee people.
But we still spend $20 a day probably, just us, me and my wife, who I'm pointing to over there at Starbucks every day, like clockwork.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm like, yeah.
And there's plenty of places to go to, right? But you do that. I don't know, whatever. So they have a management structure in place that's interesting, and they own a lot of their own locations, and then they do have some that are owned by other people. So that's a good model. So I think that business has been done before, and I think anybody trying to recreate the wheel is making a mistake because they don't understand how to go look at what someone else is doing and duplicate it for themselves.
Yeah.
So definitely that's what I'm doing as I'm going in. I'm like, what other fields or what other industries have something like this? So for me, it's very similar to you, where you have to manage and push a product and like really, really be on it. Like our biggest problem is that my knowledge base of what you have in your home, of what someone has in their home is really hard to transfer. Yeah. So when I walk in and I know that furniture was made by Arnie Jacobson in 1969 and it's worth $7,000. Yeah. Even if I'm training somebody, there's hundreds of thousands of little pieces of data like that in here. Yeah. And that I wouldn't even remember to tell you unless we walked into home and we saw that chair. Yeah. And so it's really hard to work it into training. Yeah. And I was in a house the other day and helping train a team, and we pulled out a box and it had vintage Halloween decorations. And there's these decorations, they're paper mache Halloween like pumpkins. Wow. And they're from like the 50s or something like that. Yeah. And somebody made them, and they're worth $400 a piece, right? Wow. And so $300 to $400 a piece. Yeah. And so somebody who's just going through, if you hire someone off the street and they don't
25 cents.
25 cents all day long. Yeah. And then so you take the value of what that estate could bring for let's say it could have been 20,000, and all of a sudden you're down to 10,000 because people just didn't know.
So how do you deal with that? Like how because clearly you've gotten something successful going, because you're not at all of these and you're not, there's no way you're approving all the prices.
Exactly.
Impossible.
Right.
So how have you done it?
So definitely we have pricing training on general items. Yeah. And then we have a research process that we train everyone on how to research something. And then we have quality control, just like you were talking about with the checklist of going in afterwards. Yeah. Like we have to have somebody that does have information, like at least, and that can like really be in communication with me on texting me photos and doing the quality control. So that's a huge piece of it, because that's when you walk in and you catch there's a sterling silver flatware set that's worth $3,000 and they have it priced $150 because they just thought it was spoons and forks, you know? And so that stuff happens all the time. And that's how I used to make a lot of money going to estate sales. Yeah. Because people just don't know. There's so many little, how I communicated to our staff is every item has a scale, right? There's a watch that probably cost 50 cents. Yeah. And there's a watch that costs $10 million or even more. Yeah. There's shoes that cost 50 cents or a couple dollars. Yeah. And there's shoes that cost $20,000. Yep. Every single item, there's a wallet that you can go buy a wallet for $1 somewhere. Yeah. And then there's a scale of a wallet for $3,000. Yeah. Every single thing. And then there's a scale of everything in between that. Yeah. So you got to kind of look at which home you're going into, what's the quality of the items there in the home, and then be able to assess, hey, Do we have a bunch of Chanel and, Louis Vuitton, or do we have a bunch of, Marshalls or Home Goods or whatever?
Yeah.
And it's really complicated.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound complicated, but it really is, because if you don't
it sounds
know,
pretty complicated. Actually.
Yeah. And if you've never purchased, like if you're just like an hourly employee at 18 or $20 an hour,
yeah,
you've never spent $3,000 on a table, on an end table, or something silly. And some of our clients have spent $5,000 or $15,000 on an end table this size.
Absolutely.
And it's like, if they open it up and it says Maitland Smith, and it's like, and it's all brass around, like there's just so many different intricacies, because the next day they might be in a house that has a $25 coffee end table. Yeah. And then the next day they might be in a house that has $3,000 little piece. I had a lady who spent $1,200 on just the trash can in her bathrooms. Wow. She had 10 bathrooms. And every single bathroom had a $1,200 trash can. It had a $600 like soap holder.
Wow.
Everything added up. And we did like $250,000 at an estate sale in 4 days.
Wow.
Just selling her stuff.
Yeah.
Because we knew what the stuff was. Yeah. But someone else could have. So that's my hardest thing. Sorry. I'm going on a rant.
No. That's great. That's amazing. So is there like, have you, as you were describing that, I'm like, there's kind of like an hypnosis drill there of like observing the obvious of like, hey, observe this nice furniture. Good. Observe this shitty furniture.
Yeah, exactly.
Good. Observe this nice. There's almost like you could like make them look back and forth and like tell you the difference.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you notice about the nice furniture? And it like, if they can't do it, they're clearly not at a decision-making level. They're at a put the tag on the thing level and be told what to do. Kind of like,
Yeah, I was listening while I was sitting in your office to the guys doing the "What do you do" drill on sales. Like, what do you do with this? What do you do with that?
Yeah,
I'm like, man, this is great. Like, I could, and of course, I've been thinking lately about how to implement all these things and just take it that much further. But I feel like we've scaled in our market. I think we can scale more in our market as well. Yeah. And I also think that we might end up going to a new market. Like this could be something that would happen to you too.
Yeah,
where you all of a sudden, like for us. We're doing sales, our average estate sales like 20, 30 grand or whatever. Oh, wow. We might go to Texas, like that's gross revenue for that estate sale. Yeah. We might go to Texas and our gross might go up to 50 per estate sale. It might, and there might be more, like Texas is the largest market for what we do.
Were you about to say old people?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I was going to say more value. Dying. I was going to say more money.
Okay. Yeah.
I was going to say more money, right? Than Detroit. Like Dallas has more money than Detroit. Like there's more people with more income per capita than, than in Detroit. Same thing here.
If I were in your business, I would go straight to New England.
New England. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
People who have a ton of old shit that's worth a lot of money.
Yeah.
Who are downsizing or leaving the state or old and dying. Like,
so that's the thing.
Kids that want to get money for their parents' expensive shit.
Exactly.
I'd be like, Connecticut, here I come.
Exactly. So you're right on the leaving. That's why Michigan is so great. People from Michigan come to Florida.
Yeah.
Totally. And then obviously from New England, they go to the east side of Florida. They go to Palm Springs and things like that. Yeah. So 100%. But what's the killer in that market is that we're basically doing, like, let's call a spade. Like we're doing giant garage sales, know?
Yeah.
And in Michigan and in New England, the winter hits, which is about to come. And it is so difficult. We do actually great in the winter. Mm-hmm. The best sales are in the winter because there's no competition. But there's less people that are thinking like, hey, I should do an estate sale right now in the winter, unless they have to. So that's why Texas is an interesting market for us because we want to be able to flip-flop that revenue. I think it's going to be better in Texas during the winter months and better in Michigan in the summer months, but we'll see.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
So, and then we'll do Chicago after that, and then probably New England for sure.
Yeah.
And then LA. LA is huge as well.
Is it? Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. A lot of people moving out. What you want is people moving out or moving to a location where they already have something else and they're not taking everything.
Yeah.
Because in Michigan, a lot of people have condos here. So they're like leaving their 10,000 square foot house.
Yeah.
And because they're moving into their condo, which is already furnished.
And maybe like 2,500 square feet max.
Exactly. And they don't have anything to do with it. So that's that market.
Wow. Yeah. So let's talk about the auction company. Because when you were talking about that, I was definitely super interested. Yeah. How, I'm assuming it sounds like it's relatively, and I hope this isn't like an insulting term, but it sounds like it's relatively like niche down or like relatively like boutique. Right.
Yeah,
it doesn't sound like it's not an eBay competitor necessarily.
Right.
It's more like a boutique, like find something yet. I love that. There we go. Let's go. I mean, that's the way you would get there is you would start with super high stuff. And then eventually before they knew it, you'd steal half of their market.
Right.
Yeah. And they probably wouldn't know.
Yeah, exactly. So we take in like similarly. So when our salespeople go out to a house, they're seeing where are the opportunities here? Is there a real estate deal? Is there an estate sale? Is there items that need to go to auction? And a lot of times people take their high end items and they don't want to put them in like a garage sale setting.
So you give them to the international market.
Exactly.
And you actually increase the price by offering it to a bigger market.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So then people give us we'll do just jewelry auctions or coin auctions and people, how many people have a closet full of coins and things like that. So we do really well.
Yeah.
With those things.
Was the magazine, you said you were doing a comic book one?
Yeah, comic book one.
Is that from one person or is that from multiple?
So multiple, but we got the main collection from one person.
Yeah.
And then we started building off of that and running ads to fill up the rest of the auction. Like that's part of the idea. Like let's say we get a glass collection.
Yeah.
That's really valuable. We might run ads. Hey, do you have something similar? And build out the rest of the auction.
Oh, wow.
So that's another way we do it. Or we get single collections. Like I had a guy a few months ago, he collected like ancient Roman, ancient Egyptian, like really cool stuff. And so we had an Egyptian tablet that we took to auction.
Oh my God.
It was 12,000 years old. Like
what is that for?
Incredible. It only sold for like $12,000 because it was but it's $12,000. It's a fucking
rock, man.
Yeah, exactly.
It's literally, it's a rock, isn't it?
But we had,
did you pick it up?
Yeah.
It's literally a rock,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, those things are literally just
a little
rocks.
Rock. Yeah.
Yeah, but like 12 grand, boom.
12 grand. And so we had this guy bring a clock recently and we thought it was, a few $1,000s. And then the auction took it to like almost 30 grand.
Wow.
So we'll have things like that pop. I've sold like coffee tables. I had this huge collection that actually flew out to Palm Springs in California and brought back to Michigan. And he had these coffee tables. I sold the coffee tables for like 30 grand.
Wow.
For just his coffee tables. I did like probably $300,000 or $400,000 on his stuff.
Oh, that's awesome.
That was a whole adventure in itself.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because I had to pack up his whole house in like 4 days without going there first. I had like a 12.
You must be so tempted to start a moving company.
The movie, well, I don't know, but that would definitely be a piece because a lot of people, we definitely refer out a lot of moving.
Yeah.
I really, at this point, I want to focus on building like the estate sale company because that breeds everything else that I do.
Yeah.
And then let my partners and everyone else kind of build up around it on the other companies. You know?
Yeah, it makes sense. Man, that's freaking awesome. So what you said you have 45 employees now?
Yeah.
So obviously you've found some good people. You've been in business for 13 years now.
Yeah.
Like what are your successful actions in recruiting and hiring? And do you put any attention on retaining? It's kind of like 3 separate questions.
No, that's great. I mean, I think the first thing is like, if you're anything like me, I personally dropped out of high school at 14.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And so, and I never really had a real job. Like I never like.
And he didn't wind up in construction.
And I didn't wind up in construction. No, just but if I did, I'd like to wind up where you're at in construction. But the thing about it is that you're trained in your field, but you're not trained in hiring, recruiting, retaining, dealing with people, even accounting and, management. The management structure, like the actual production of the company is this big and the company is this big, because of all the sales, the marketing, the people. Yep. And so I definitely agree with like always be hiring, is the idea on that, like always be recruiting to get new people because you have to be able to let people go. I unfortunately
you want to hear something awesome, which you'll really appreciate. How many people did we interview last week?
A lot.
Give me a rough number. Like where the graph roughly is.
I think around maybe 30.
Nice.
No, stop it. No, it's like 70. Jessie does 45 a week herself. No, last week. How many people we interviewed?
False reporting.
Doesn't even know our own stats. Anyways, I know what the stat was because I saw it on the wall and I went up and I was like, damn, that's high.
Yeah.
We interviewed 70 people last week.
And how many people did you bring on out of that 70?
Maybe 3.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, which is fine. Yeah. So continue.
No, that's how it should be done.
Right.
And, I think that I've grown through the process of like keeping people on because you care about them.
Oh,
keeping
yeah, you were about to
people
talk
on
about
because
firing people.
Yeah, I definitely had to do that today, even.
Nice,
and
let's go.
it's, and I have no button on it anymore because I think about what's the greatest good for the company and what's the greatest good for our group, And so when I have a management person who's like, I can't do that, I don't know what to do. I'm like, what's the ideal scene here?
Yeah.
Is this our ideal scene or not?
Yeah.
It's very like black and white for me at this point in my life. But it was not that way for the first 8-9 years.
I don't know what that feels like. Oh, you have the actual number? What was it?
It was 71. I was thinking of
Nice.
Bro, come on.
The no-shows were coming up in my
The CEO that knows everything.
Everything. Exactly. We have to just be aware, the awareness.
Okay, so that was 70 with 30 no-shows. So what we did, you might want to steal this idea.
Yeah,
just
go for it, please.
Is we have a Filipino appointment setter for our recruiter.
Okay.
The Filipino, $4 or $5 an hour or something like that.
Yeah.
She works 40 hours a week. But that's
I know. I
making
have some
bank for
too.
them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we hired a setter for recruiting specifically, and now it's just flow of bodies through in interviews.
So do they do any pre-qualification in that step or very little? They're just like putting it on the calendar, contacting the person, getting them scheduled, making sure they're, trying to get them there in the.
Yeah. And then the recruiter, because dude, we've tried so many different things to pre-screen people.
Yeah.
I haven't found it freaking works.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like,
exactly.
I'm looking for willing people who are generally like already doing okay. Like they're already relatively happy in life, like the, higher toned.
Yeah.
And then like, boom, let's see if they can produce or not.
Yeah. I love that. So how do you like, when you bring them in, like, are you like, I mean, like you're doing that qualification, obviously 70 to 3 people at that point, and then you're bringing them in, you're onboarding them, you're training them. And then you have that 2-week cut. We talked about that. So
so that's for salespeople. So, so our sales onboarding is honestly, it had to become our smoothest process because we really struggled like all of last year, all of like 2023, and maybe for like a quarter of this year, 2024. That's about when we kind of figured it out, right? Like a quarter to halfway through 2024, all of a sudden I just sat down and I was like, okay, this sales onboarding, because I was like, just bring them in, have them shadow somebody. I was like, that's apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just have them shadow and they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And they'll just, kind of pick it up as they go. That is not the way it works at all.
Right.
I'm sure you know this. You're like, no, that does not work. So then I'm like, okay, I sat down and I took it probably took me like 20 to 40 hours of like sitting down and actually breaking it out and writing things up. And I basically created a 4-week training plan to get somebody to where they're not horrible when they go and see a potential client.
Yeah.
Fair. And then basically they have 4 weeks. They got to sell one thing. We have lots of different things to sell.
Yeah.
And they got to sell one thing within those 4 weeks. The last week we slam them with leads. Up until then, they're calling a list of old prospects who had already contacted us.
Right.
And so now we probably if we bring in 20 potential salespeople, probably a quarter of them make it,
right?
Which is very high from my experience in the type of like we're commission only sales role. It's very eat what you kill type setup. And it's great. We have one guy who's probably going to make over 400K this year.
Nice.
Like I think he's actually closing on over. After we had a huge week this last week.
Yeah.
I think he might already be over 400K and it's
That's
November.
Crazy.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
He knows Miranda. She got him through his.
Oh yeah, it's Evan. Yeah, it's Miranda. It's her fiance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
That's so well done.
yeah, and it's really like it's good because like we put it there for him to succeed, but he's just an animal as well.
Yeah.
He just like
Beast mode.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what you have to find, right? So if people are going to do that, and that's exactly why I had to let this person go today. He's a salesperson for 3 weeks and it wasn't working out because there wasn't you have to push,
Yeah.
When you're doing that 4-week training, are you doing a lot of like sitting down, reading, like drilling, like type of stuff in that time?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
So what you heard, so we have 5 what we call what do you do drills that are directed at salespeople specifically. They're only for the sales role. 1 or 2 other people might do one of them to learn a specific piece of it. Like our appointment setter will do like the qualification piece.
Right.
But what it's about is it takes them through, you know the book Big League Sales by Les Dane?
Yeah.
So it takes them through the big league sales process of like qualify, handling a different buyer type, handling objections, and then how do you actually close?
Got it.
So it walks them through on a gradient. And we typically do 3 times through on do the drill, read the chapter, not in reverse order. So read the chapter, do the drill, do it again, do it again.
So you basically use the book and then you put like a course behind it or something.
Yeah,
like that?
I basically had to make my own little
that.
course. And it's just like, it's like 7, each one, there are different numbers of questions. One of them is 50 questions. One of them is 100 questions. They have to be able to go through and answer, not verbatim, but with like the correct answer on all of them one time through.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
then they pass. And if they can't do that in the week, and it's like, there's one per week that they have to get through.
Right.
If they can't get through one of those in a week, like they're done at that point. It's
Yeah.
not like, oh, we'll give them a shot. It's like, no, if they can't learn this, they're not going to succeed. We already know.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, this, what you just said for anybody watching is fucking gold in business.
Yeah.
What you just communicated. So I
Yeah.
hope everybody knows that they just got a whole lot of value for free right there.
Thanks,
So
man.
I
Yeah.
appreciate that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And I've seen it. You know where I actually got that idea? It's not going to be what you think.
Okay.
So there's this guy, there's this guy, Mike. Do you remember Mike's last name? I can't think of it off the top of my head. Not important. Anyways, there's this guy, Mike, and people call him $1 Million Mike because he goes to fundraising events and he will not go to a fundraising event unless he's going to donate $1 million to the charity that's fundraising.
Nice.
So I was at this event where he did $2.5 million at the event.
Okay.
At a house event. Like not in like a huge thing.
Yeah.
There are maybe 100 people there. At a house event, this guy gave $2.5 million. I'm like, what the fuck? And then I find out that, and he's not like a very well-known guy. He's just boom, $2.5 million. There you go.
Yeah.
And I find out he runs a fucking framing company.
Interesting.
He literally, like the hammering the wood together. Yeah. That's literally what his business is. Right. He has 400 framers that work for him.
Wow.
They build the biggest frame structures across the Midwestern United States. And so I ran into him. It was funny. He had his, he drives this sick, I think like 488.
Okay.
But like super pimped, like got like Italian like racing shit on it. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. That's funny.
He parked it in front of the Starbucks in downtown Clearwater, but not in a parking spot, in like the barrier area.
I know where.
And it wasn't like just like idling there. It was turned off, parked.
Oh shit.
And he's sitting there like having coffee at Starbucks. Yeah. And so I come up and start chatting with him because I'd like bumped into him and said hi at the event. And I told him I run a construction company. He was super interested. And I told him some of the stuff we'd done to kind of like organize up. And he's like, that's really good. And I'm like, so what do you think? Like, what's your biggest thing that's successful for you? And he's like, what do you do drills? And I said, what do you mean? What do you do drills? He's like, well, when a guy comes onto our job site, he has to know what to do and to not do. The easiest way. And he's like, and by the way, he's like, most of my employees are illiterate.
Right.
That's fair. That is actually the reality that I've observed in construction is most construction guys have a very low reading level, if any at all. And even if they're good at reading, they don't like to. They hate reading. So they do them all verbally. And he's like, okay, I have my supervisor get him through on his first week. He has to get through the basic, what do you do drill? Then he does the next one. And the first one is like, what do we do with the extra nails when we're done during the day?
Right.
We put them in a bucket and cover the bucket. So, because one of their major expenses is they have to use these like galvanized structural nails. Yeah. And if you leave them out, they'll rust if they're left out in the rain and the elements. So you have to put them away at the end of each day. Yeah. I've seen so many job sites with freaking rolls of nails just rusting, you know, but he runs a framing company. He's got to keep like his expenses in line. Right. Yeah. So he undercuts and goes around these people's inability to read and is able to train them by getting them through what do you do drills. And he's like,
it's beautiful.
I keep them very simple. He's like, and one question leads directly into the next. Like the first question on most of them is like, why are we taking the time to do this drill?
Nice.
So I know his answer on the first one is, so it's like, it's something like, so I don't piss people off on the job.
Fair.
Because if you come in on a job site and you don't know what you're doing, people are going to get mad at you.
Yeah,
I know because I've done it.
Exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. So $1 Million Mike, I think his framing company does like $40 or $50 million a year in revenue.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Of framing. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But his secret to his success is what do you do drills? And he's got them all the way up to super advanced, like, you know, how do you frame a truss on site when your trusses come in the wrong site? Like he's got him down to like a really exact science, you know?
I love that.
Yeah. It's amazing.
I'm definitely going to take that and implement it super fast. You'd You'd be surprised by the end of the year. I'll be like, hey, look at all these. What do you do, drills?
I know. Yeah, I know.
I'll send you a video of our staff doing them.
Dude, I won't be surprised at all. I won't be surprised at all.
That's awesome.
So what is the, I know you've kind of talked about it a little bit already, but what does the future look like for you and your businesses?
Yeah, definitely. We want to do at least 10 locations that are company owned. Next, we want to trial.
And how many currently? How many locations?
Just one. Michigan is like our actual location.
Oh, okay.
And so I do sales in other locations, but I don't have other like stable locations. So we'll probably ship me to Dallas for 6 months.
Yeah.
And basically drop me and say, start, and, but I have a lot of the planning. I already have a budget in place and everything.
Yeah.
I'm already
undercover billionaire style.
Yeah, exactly. But with a little bit of, more money than that.
90 days.
Exactly,
Let's go.
Exactly. And so, and start building that and see how fast, because just like you've built your business over so long of time, but you now have this data. You're like, man, a lot of I wasted like all these years right here, like how fast could this really be done is the question. And so we want to establish and try to get that up to, 5-10 million in the first couple years in Dallas. And then from there, duplicate that across the country, that model.
Roughly, what does the Michigan area do?
The Michigan will do like just the estate sales would do about 6.5 million. Okay. And then the auction house will do about $1 million this year.
Oh, wow. Nice.
It's just been getting back started again. And then, we'll do 10 or 15 in real estate and then about $500,000 on the staging company. Staging company's a little baby right now.
Yeah.
So, but that's why the estate sales, I'm like, I think that Dallas could do 10 to 15 though.
Wow.
Like because of the amount of people there, the amount of value, the amount.
I forget how big Dallas is.
It's huge. It's the largest estate sale
city.
Market already as well. Like it's
really?
already, they do the most estate sales in Dallas than across any other city in the US. So that's why we're doing there. So then we want to duplicate that. And that's our goal. Like if we can do 10 locations, that'll get us to 50 million pretty easily right there. So from 5 to 10 million a location. But I think there's going to be locations that do 15, 20, and I think there's going to be locations that do 5. The other idea beyond that is like, for example, I had somebody contact me, same thing we were just talking about earlier, about starting a franchise on the other side of the state of Michigan. Yeah. I'm never going to go and own a personal location there. So I'm going to franchise those type of locations. Like Nashville is a great market. And that's not on our top 10 or 20 list though. Mm-hmm. And so I'd franchise that and let someone else run it. But I want to own the 10 to 20 locations that we do, but 10 is the first mark. That's the first target.
That's awesome, dude.
So I've been spending my time this past year, like really organizing, really getting shit dialed in so that I can, exit out of Michigan successfully and have it thrive and continue to grow. Because we've always grown. We've never decreased in revenue. We've only decreased 1 year in revenue, which was an interesting year. Yeah. And then other than that, we've always done, 20, 30, 40 or 120%, depending on the year. But so that's my growth plan. I'm also sort of considering after the St. Pete sale though, like if we crush it this weekend, I'm going to be really tempted to just start here because I'm here. I can be here, which would be better for my family. Yeah. But my wife's all for whatever we do.
Because your family is here now.
Yeah, they're here now.
What percentage of your time do you spend in Detroit versus here in Clearwater?
That's a good question.
Just like rough.
Yeah, probably I spend like 60% in Detroit. Yeah. Probably 60 to 70%.
That makes it when I watch, because I watch a lot of your stories. I'm like, I literally thought that like your family was with you in Detroit. I just like assumed that.
Yeah, it is hard, man. It's hard being away from your family. It's hard. Like obviously. Bro. Yeah. So it's not, but like, for example, really I need to be in Michigan when the revenue is tougher. So in the winter, I need to be there. But also to drive, just be the hammer and just make it go right. But then also like when my kid's out of school, I'll take them up to Michigan. Like they're coming with me next week for Thanksgiving. Yeah. Which would be great. Me and my daughter are going to see the Thanksgiving Day parade. We got a hotel right downtown Detroit. Awesome. And we're going to go out there in the morning with our little chairs and blankets and it'll be fun. But I always try to like when I do spend time with them, do really great stuff. Yeah. You know?
That's cool.
And be there. So
that's fucking awesome. Yeah. One actually last business question that I literally was like, I'm like now wondering this as you were explaining just now. How much do you focus on advertising the estate sale to the public?
That's a great question. So not that much.
Really?
I spend more of my time advertising to clients. Like I have two subjects here. I have my clients and then I have the people I sell to. I'm spending a little bit more here because we haven't been in this market. So I'm doing a lot of Facebook ads and stuff.
Sure. Yeah.
In St. Pete. But usually like there's a few estate sale websites that everyone that shops estate sales goes to. So if we post on those specific websites, we get the traffic because it's a nationwide marketplace. So we'll get people calling us about things, or if we label things correctly, like if we have a Danish modern, credenza and we label the name on it, we'll get calls and we'll sell it. Like no problem. We don't have to spend that much time advertising to to the But we are shifting that viewpoint.
No. I just had a crazy idea.
What's that?
That would literally cost you nothing if you could somehow, you'd have to kind of finesse it. I don't know how exactly you do it, but you know what I mean when I say the word finesse it, right?
Yeah.
They just kind of like fucking figure it out. I don't know how you do it.
Yeah.
But like, the flip community?
No. Oh, like the flipping couches and
No.
What are you talking about?
No, flip. So it's
what kind of weird stuff is he into over here?
No. So it's the chat, it's the Discord that Brennan and Matt are in.
Oh,
So there's this Discord chat. No. Okay, yes. It is
Well,
weird.
I'm glad I don't know what it is.
No, it is. No, that's not why I'm bringing it up. The reason is because that I know of, it's the largest private community of resellers in the world. It's a huge Discord of resellers. If you could get, I'm assuming the majority of your revenue actually probably comes from resellers. Right?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
So if that's the majority of your business, if you could somehow connect with people who are already in the group and get them to post about opportunities at your estate sales in the group, that actually might build up more, like literally more awareness in that community.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And it costs you nothing.
Right.
Her brother, who's my brother-in-law, I'll let you think about that one. And then also one of my best friends, they resell full time.
All right.
Yeah.
They resell full time? Nice.
Yeah. One of them is in Dayton, Ohio. And then one of them's in Valdosta, Georgia.
Both of them resell full time?
Both of them resell full time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Didn't know we had that connection with the reselling.
Yeah.
We also
Second.
used to do like estates. We didn't put on estates.
Yeah.
We used to do it was
There's someone off camera talking right now, but it's fine. It became a 3-person interview.
Yeah, come on over.
So we need to keep this in, by the way, or this all stays in.
Yeah.
So, so anyways, I was literally just thinking, I'm like, you might be able to.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
Anyways, so the majority of your customers are resellers, you think?
Yeah,
That's
for sure.
revenue wise.
Yeah, I mean, there's 4 or 5 different categories. There's the dealer, the reseller, there's the decorator, there's the utilitarian that wants to buy the cleaning supplies and stuff like that, and or the tools so I have them all when I do my training with my staff.
Does the St. P one have a good set of golf clubs?
No.
Okay.
But I do get a shit ton of golf clubs in Michigan, unfortunately. I just bought a set from a guy who made custom golf clubs or whatever. I've never golfed that much. I suck really bad, but I had one of my staff.
But you bought custom golf clubs?
Yeah, I was like, go and pick me out. It was an estate that we were doing, and they were all custom. And so they're really nice clubs. I have a really nice set sitting in my office, not being used. That's never been touched. Has plastic on them and stuff. I'm like, I walk by and I'm like, I'm going to go there. So I'm going to go and do something with these someday.
Yeah, and what's funny is up in the Midwest, you guys have like some of the most beautiful golf courses are in the Midwest. Like Florida, all the beautiful golf courses are like very hard to, like they're private. You have to know somebody to play or be a member. Up there, it's like semi-private. You can just go play the most beautiful courses.
Yeah.
Anyways, you don't know, but you have it really good.
Thanks.
But you can only play half the year, which sucks.
Right. Fair.
Yeah.
That's why you travel, That's right. How you go.
Yeah,
but
that's why
me and my wife did go, we grabbed some clubs and we did go golfing at this place in Traverse City, which is northern Michigan, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
And we tried for the first time to golf together. It was really lucky. It was the end of the day and there wasn't any people behind us.
Yeah.
Because it was really embarrassing.
Yeah.
But I'll leave it at that with the golf.
Bro, it's a tough sport, man.
Yeah.
It's like, it requires the utmost attention and intention, and it requires you to keep the crazy out because the crazy comes in on a golf course. That's actually why I've been told this by a golf master.
Okay,
like I have a guy that coaches me who's a golf master. He's amazing.
Yeah.
He was a European professional golfer. He's like 70. He can go out and shoot 72 or under, which is par, or under. And basically anytime he wants it, any course from the back tees. But he literally talks about, he's like, you have to contain the reactivity on the golf course because the reactivity is what messes up everybody.
You get upset and you get mad. You're just like, fuck this.
Yeah. And then you try to swing at the ball and it never works.
Yeah. That's hilarious. On another note, my mom wanted me to tell you, which is super interesting.
Yes.
The other day, like a month ago, she was texting me and she's like, there's this TV show in Clearwater. Like, it's her favorite TV show.
100 Day Dream Home.
Yeah. And so it's her favorite. And she was texting me all about it, like that it was in Clearwater and blah, blah, blah. And we should watch it. And then she sent me a picture and like, you were in it. And I was like, bro, I know that guy.
I'm
like,
on it.
So I promised her I'd bring it up. And
we're on 3 episodes. Well, Brian, the host, was on this podcast a couple months ago.
No shit.
Yeah, he's a really good friend of mine.
Nice.
Yeah, I saw him last week.
That's great.
Yeah, because I saw him because we're filming another episode. So we did 2 episodes in the last season. We're doing another one in this upcoming season. Maybe that's 2. Awesome. 1 for sure, maybe 2. Yeah, that's been an amazing relationship, man. They have like opened incredible doors for us. It's been really, really good. And it's also shown me that there's a huge opportunity on HGTV for like a real contractor show. And I don't mean that to degrade any of the people, because like the people who are on HGTV are awesome. From what I've always been told by people who know HGTV people like personally, is they have to be very real on that network. Otherwise they're not like stars who are like weird off camera. You know?
Fair.
But there's a gap there of like the reality TV portion. Right. And I'm like, you walk around here on a daily basis, I'm like, this is fucking reality TV.
Right,
man.
right.
Like,
I know. I feel the same way about my shit,
so
right?
good.
I know.
Yeah. We probably all do about our
Yeah.
Like,
I was thinking we're probably going to do a pilot, but when in our business, like we're going into people's homes, we're going into their drawers, their cabinets, their cupboards. Some of these houses we have been sitting there for 50 years or 100 years with stuff in them, and we find all sorts of treasure. We find all sorts of crazy things. Are you
gonna video the first walkthrough?
We think, like, what do you mean, like
video the walkthrough of them showing you all their shit?
Yeah, exactly.
And live reaction.
That's like the one part where it's like, you know, we definitely need to get, but it's the clients are like so reserved. And so like about like they're so like some of these houses are not in great condition, you know, and they're not like we did a house and that client actually got mad about me for posting about it because it was really disgusting. And she sent this really awful email. We crushed it on the deal. We crushed every part of it. Yeah. But at the end we posted like, hey, we turned this to this, and the house was full of mice. And it was like, we did probably like almost $200,000. We did $125,000 just in jewelry out of this house. And so we crushed it. And all of this was little pieces of jewelry found throughout these rat nests and that we had to pull out. And it was really bad, but we went through and we handled it and we made this lady a shit ton of money. Our staff worked their ass off. They worked in these conditions. Yeah. And they made it go right. Yeah. Just for it to end like because we showed the reality. But it's true.
You know what's funny? I wrote a policy on this a couple months ago. Our product here, like a lot of people are like, what's the most important thing in customer service? And like people will like ask me like, what is that for you? I'm like, well, it's certainly not a happy customer. Right. Frankly, I could give 2 shits about whether the customer is happy or not, because that's not up to me. Yeah. Like their happiness is not up to me. It's up to them. Right. What I am interested in is, did we deliver a kick-ass product in the time promised or less, and at the price we promised we would do it? Like, did we do that? Okay, good. Exactly. Then I'm handled. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And did we respect their property along the way? We work in people's homes where they're occupied. So it's similar to you. We have to be respectful of things. We have to make sure we take care of the existing home, blah, blah, blah. But yeah, it's the happy, trying to make people happy. In my experience,
it's a losing battle.
Unless you have a magic wand. Right. Yeah. It's a losing battle. Yeah. Like that's like pushing water uphill with a fork. Yeah. You can be respectful to them, which like we definitely do not tolerate like disrespect of our clients. 100%. And I kind of hope that this clip gets taken out of context. Hint, Ricky. But about happiness not being the product. Right. But it actually is the reality. Like happiness is not the product. It's not like, anyways, the product is what the product is, which in your case is like get you the maximum amount of money for your old shit. Exactly. When your dad dies. No, just kidding. Sorry. That's so bad. But that's the product, right? It's get them the most amount of money for their stuff. Yeah. Yeah. For us, it's deliver what we promised. Right. Like that's it. And actually our thing is actually over deliver. Like make it look better than I expected. Right. You know? Exactly. So, well, dude, thank you for being here with me.
And thanks for having me.
We're going to wrap. Anything you want to leave as a leave off thought here?
As a leave off thought, I mean, I guess like one of the things I'm sure you and your wife are probably focused on, and one of the things that I see in like the difference between success and failure is the ability to push. Like I'm the same as you. Like I'm thinking about work and this business and growing it from 5 o'clock in the morning until 10 o'clock at night, 7 days a week. There's nothing that people miscalculate or underestimate the amount of effort that it takes to push something like a thought into the fucking marketplace and make it work.
Yeah.
And then also being able to learn and realize when you don't know something and that you need to get it, because a lot of people, if they're entrepreneurs, they have a skill set. Oh, I can clean houses. I can build houses. I can sell people stuff or whatever it is. But then they don't realize there's all of this other stuff that they don't know. And they take losses on it along the way. They take losses on not being able to retain that person or that good person leaving. And so I think a lot of people need to calculate the right amount of effort that it takes and the right thought process so that when those things happen, it's not a letdown. It's part of business. You know, you keep going and you keep pushing and it's like, all right, that happened. I was expecting it. Let's keep rolling.
Last thing before we leave off, we made a personal policy recently that when someone resigns, it has to be communicated as good news. So now if she's telling me, hey, such and such resigned, she has to say, great news, exclamation point, such and such resigned. Because every time someone is fired or quits, our stats go up, we make more money.
Yeah.
Inevitably.
Yeah.
Inevitably. So, bro, thank you for spending time with me. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already subscribed, be sure you hit the subscribe button below, and I'll see you in the next vid. Peace.